As you descend deeper into the ancient crypt, your party discovers that it has been made into the lair of a group of cultists. They seem to be unaware of your presence. You have the surprise round. What do you do? Roll for initiative. A while back I made these dungeon tiles, and they worked out pretty nice for what I had intended to use them for, but they're still not perfect. They have a little bit of clunkiness to them, and they still have this little border. Now, I did make some little dungeon walls to put in between them, but that ended up being a little bit more trouble than it was worth, so we're going to go ahead and remake them into some better tiles today. Now, not too long ago, I saw a video by Black Magic Craft where he used some silicone caulking to create a texture with a texture roller, and it worked out really great. So today we're going to do that with some of this. Now, this is vinyl paper that I got at the Dollar Tree. Now, this is 4.5 inches wide, so it's a little bit wider than the tile that we're going to be using, so we'll be able to lay out the caulking and do the texture roller over it, and then trim it down to fit the tiles that we're going to be using. Alright, so I've cut the vinyl paper into some strips. These are roughly 12 inches long. So we're going to lay out the silicone and do some texture across the whole thing, but to keep it from moving around, I think it's going to be easiest if we just kind of tape down the corners to make sure it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't move around while we're trying to work with it. So I'm just going to use a little bit of some electrical tape here to kind of tack down the corners, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So the application process is fairly simple. Here on camera I show that I am smoothing it down with some damp fingers to just kind of make sure it spreads to all the corners of the paper. I don't do this in future steps with the wet fingers because it ended up not really being needed and transferred a little bit too much water to the caulking by the time I applied the texture roller. So I wouldn't recommend smoothing it down with damp fingers. Just wear a set of gloves and you won't have any issues. I do recommend, however, doing the texture roller in the soapy water like I did here. That works out really well to keep it from sticking to the texture roller, and you get really clear and consistent results. So now I'm just being very cautious to pick up the paper and transfer it to a cookie sheet, and this will get set out in my garage to cure overnight, just to make sure that it is fully hardened and ready to go before we move on to the next step. So here it is a day later, and I've trimmed it down to be a 3-inch by 3-inch square. This is going to go onto a 1/8-inch thick piece of 16th-inch thick piece of foam, and I'm going to use some Gorilla Glue here. This is the same as E6000. This is just what I had on hand, and this is going to ensure that the vinyl paper sticks to the foam and doesn't come loose. Now, this does take quite a while to fully cure and solidify, so I would recommend doing this step and then just kind of setting it aside for an hour or so before doing anything else with it. Once I set the paper down, I peeled off the paper backing, and then it just kind of sticks down. I use a texture roller, but ended up not really needing to do that to kind of smooth everything down. Once it's in place, it is good and ready to go. You just kind of let it set to the side and don't worry about it. Alright, so I've prepped the tiles by painting them on one side with some spray paint, and the other side is blank. And then we're going to glue the foam and textured side down onto these. Now, I applied the foam to the backing of the vinyl paper because I want to have these raised up just a little bit. And the reason for that is I'm planning on making some roadways using this same method, and I want them to be kind of sunken down to create like the impression of a curb or artificial elevation. So that will do it for me without having to worry about making, specific curb tiles or anything like that. Now you can absolutely do all the gluing in one shot and then set it aside to cure and dry. I would just recommend putting it face down on a sheet of parchment paper to make sure that the edges don't curl. Speaking of the edges curling, I did not do that with this one, and as you can see, after about an hour, the edges are curling up and it does not look great. So what I'm going to do to fix this is just a little bit of hot glue to kind of seal the edges and pin down the foam to make sure that it doesn't continue to curl. And once the E6000 glue dries and fully cures, it'll be rock solid and have absolutely no chance of coming apart. The hot glue will also have the nice added effect of giving a kind of stone or rocky texture to the edges of the tile. I'm just taking great care to make sure that it's a very, very thin layer, just barely any hot glue coming out at all. Once the hot glue was dry, I took them outside and gave them a quick top and side coat of a smoke gray spray paint. Now, this was a little bit glossy, mostly because I forgot that I had bought smoke gray in gloss, but a couple of quick dry brushes and that worked kind of in my favor. So here we're doing a very heavy dry brush, almost an overbrush of some neutral gray. This will go over all of the surface and all of the sides. And then once that's dried, I do a light dry brushing of warm gray just on the top to kind of bring all the edges and raised sections to life. This kind of gives a very nice warm look and feel to the piece. And here you can see the difference between the two already. Alright, so once that's done, we're going to take some Null Oil and just do a fairly light coating over the entire surface and all four of the sides. This will give it a nice kind of dirty, worn-in look that I kind of want for city streets or city sidewalks or dungeon setting. So this whole process was working so well that I decided to revamp the dungeon walls that I had made. These are some tumbling tower Jenga blocks that I glued together in this form and then did a texture roll of silicone with some cobblestone to create the kind of stone wall. And here we go with a quick little dungeon setup. Given how many of these I've made, there's a lot of different things that can be used with them. You can do dungeons, or even little market setups if you're doing a more city kind of setting. Alright everyone, so thank you all for watching. Please hit that like button, subscribe for future content, comment in the comment section, and we will see everyone next episode.